In this video, I will show you how I upgraded the original halogen headlight bulbs of my 996 to the latest Bi-LED projectors using the conversion kit from Retrofit Labs. Anyone who has owned an early Boxster or 996 will be familiar with the burnt inner lens issue, as seen here. Not only does it look bad, it actually reduces light output. So when we're done with this upgrade, your headlight will not only look great, it will be much safer on the highway at night. My name is Bruce, and I'm the Porsche 911 guy. My 996 C2 came with a tool pouch stored with the spare tire. In this tool pouch is a headlight removal tool. Undo the fasteners holding the trunk carpeting in place. Then peel the carpet back to expose and remove the rubber plug. If you can't locate the special tool, you can use a 5mm socket and an extension. Insert the 5mm tool into the headlight unlocking opening. Turn the tool counterclockwise until it clicks. Then back it off slightly clockwise until the headlight is released. Before I put the headlight in the oven, I remove 2 screws, here and here. Then you can take the rubber gasket off, which is held on by some little clips, shown here. Up to this point, where you see these white fasteners. In the center of these fasteners, there is a tiny pin. So I just used a small precision screwdriver to punch these on through. I then used a flat blade screwdriver to pry under the gasket to pop off the white fasteners. Then slid the rubber gasket off the final clip like this. To recover the center pegs, I turned the headlight over and gave it a shake until the pegs fell out. I put the 3 pegs and the 2 screws away for future use. The back cover of the headlight comes off by pressing here. The bulbs are found in this area. There are 2 connectors, and you can just wiggle them while pulling them off. The bulbs are held in by retainers, which I moved off to one side to release the bulb. There's another bulb right here. It pulls straight out. I then remove the bulb. There is another bulb under this cover. You can put the headlight in your oven or do as I did and built my own. For this, you'll need a large box, a heat gun, a box cutter, a marker, and duct tape. I also used my wife's cooking thermometer. If you don't have one, you can get these on Amazon. I used this size of box. As you can see, I got it from U-Haul. I made a hole the same size as my heat gun. Once I had the right diameter, I used my box cutter to cut the hole. I then inserted my heat gun to make sure it fit okay. I taped up all the sides to keep the heat in. Once I had all the sides taped up, I put the headlight into the box. I then taped up the rest of the seams. I set my heat gun to high and inserted it into the hole. I inserted my thermometer into the box near the top. Since heat rises, I figured this would give a fairly accurate reading. So it's up to about 200 degrees Fahrenheit now, and I can see that the tape is failing to stick, and I'm losing heat. The tape completely failed after about 200 degrees. I was using this brand, and now I am using Gorilla Tape. I'm up to 228 degrees, so I started a timer for 18 minutes. I was shooting for about 250 degrees. By turning the heat gun on and off as needed, I was able to keep it between 225 and 250. At 14 minutes, it's showing 245 degrees. The tape is holding well, and as you can see, the box is actually bulging at the seams. The 18 minutes are now up. Turn off the heat gun. I suggest gloves and goggles since the headlight will be very hot. With the gloves on, I cut the front of the box open. and remove the headlight. I needed to pry along this edge, so I gathered up a few different tools. I may use this spatula to protect the lens while I pry underneath it. You do not want to pry here, you want to be underneath it. In other videos I've seen, people struggle at this part, and I can see why. I'll stop the camera now and get back to you after I get it started. Okay, it's not easy. It's taken 10 minutes, and all I have is the tip of the screwdriver just under this lip, right here. I think if I start with my screwdriver at an angle and move that way, it should pry up. Making some progress. Once it starts to go, it seems like you could almost take it off by hand at this point. Here is a good close-up of the lip, where you need to be prying with the screwdriver. I put a towel down to protect the lens. Here, I'm getting some of the old sealant coming out. I've decided to run a box cutter along the edge to break up the sealant. Looking back, I think I should have put the headlight back in the oven for a few minutes to soften the sealant again. While I was messing around, I was able to break off the orange reflector. There are a couple of tabs here, so I'll just reattach it later. I thought at this point maybe I could twist it off. But no. Piece of cake. Using a Phillips screwdriver, I remove the reflector. These are the burn marks on the inner lens. Once I had the two parts separated, I then had to remove the remaining sealant out of this channel along here. And also on the lens cover. Just used a flat blade screwdriver and applied heat occasionally to soften the sealant. I decided to take the inner lens and bulb unit out to make it lighter and lessen the chances of breaking something inside. So this is the back side of the housing, and I want to remove this unit here. There are 3 ball joints we need to snap out of place. One is right here. One is under here. And the last one is back here. So I'll heat them up with the heat gun, and then they should pop out of place. I needed to remove the ball joint hardware, since it will be used later on. I sliced the sealant with a box cutter. Then used a flat blade screwdriver to dig out the channel. As you dig in the channel, you will notice little ribs along the way. These ribs are there so when you put the lens back on, it will be seated correctly for proper height. For example, there's one right here. It took at least an hour to do this. Let's do a time lapse. So, looking pretty good. One video I watched suggested very hot water to soften the sealant, so I gave that a try. That did not work at all. So I'm going to try a box cutter and scrape it off. Being very careful along here. Very tedious. So next I'm going to try Glugon and methyl hydrate. Methyl hydrate is high percentage rubbing alcohol. It made no difference at all. I tried methyl hydrate, and it did nothing but take the paint off, which you do not want. I had to be very careful on the inside of this, right here. I did not want to scratch that because it would show on the other side. Along here should be okay though, since it's well below the inside of the housing. I cleaned up all the edges where the sealant was with methyl hydrate. So the new sealant would adhere better. And I did the same with the housing. This is the Bi-LED projector I purchased from Retrofit Labs. You can see I selected the AlphaLED and right-hand drive for Canada and US. This is the LED assembly. It has fans for cooling and vents. Also in the box are the fasteners, and a mounting plate specifically designed for the Boxster and 996. Here is all the hardware. You will also need these 3 pieces, which we removed earlier from the back of the unit. I used thread locker to secure everything. I've got these 2 done, and the last one goes here. But when I heated up the second light housing, I decided to leave the back of the housing off, and I suspect the heat gun was pointed too close to the housing, so this part actually melted and came out looking like this. So you can't buy these individually, as the headlight is sold only as a complete sealed unit. So you can't go buy the wire harness, the inner lens, or any of the individual bits or pieces. So I had to make one of these to go here. So I was successful in making another part. I'll include the process I used at the very end of this video, in the bonus section. I just loosely fastened these so I can test fit it into the unit to ensure it all lines up. I then took a marker and marked each one. Now that I have it all fastened, I want to point out this part of the cutout is the top, facing upwards. And this area here, where the cutout is the top of the projector. So I will install the 4 posts for the projector, and again use thread locker. Again, this is the top of the cutout. You can pause the video here if you would like to double check for the correct orientation of the ball joint fasteners as compared to your assembled unit. All the parts for this project were ordered from Retrofit Labs. I opted for the 105mm 6000K light ring. You could also call this an angel eye or halo. Since I didn't care for the look of the Panamera style shroud, I contacted Retrofit Labs and they let me substitute the Gatlin Gun style shroud, shown here. I'll put the links for everything in the description below. So the light ring fits in here. And the experts suggest using mechanics wire or picture wire to secure the ring in place. I will put a small hole here and run the wire through it in a loop. I will do the same in 3 different places. The experts also suggest using a push pin to poke a hole through the plastic. I tried that on the other shroud, and it was very hard. So what I ended up doing was score it with the pin, then drill it out with a very small drill bit, something about the same diameter as the pin or the wire. Be very careful doing this. You don't want to skid across the chrome. The shroud I selected has slots, and that's where the light shines out. The projector assembly also has slots, here and here, for the shroud to snap into place. What I was trying to achieve here is that I want a slot at the top of the projector. Straight up and down when installed in the car. So I marked top on the shroud. I'm trying to determine where to drill the holes, so that I have 3 places to secure the light ring, spread out evenly. Here is a close-up of the drill bit, so you can get an idea what size to use. This one is designed to drill holes in printed circuit boards. As you can see here, I was having difficulty pushing the last wire through. And that is because I didn't plan ahead. And one of the holes is actually behind one of the clips that holds the shroud onto the projector. So I should have gone on this side. I had to bend the wire up and reroute it. These light rings have a connector on the back, and the light emitted from this side is slightly obscured. So I lined it up so it sits behind a solid part here. Once I had the light ring in, with the wires coming out from the bottom compared to the top, I marked the ring. I secured the light ring in by bending the wires up, and I gave them a twist. I used a small pair of pliers for the final twists. I lined the top with the top. I pressed on the outside part of the wire to remove the bulge. Double check to see if everything is aligned. I put a little E6000 on each of the wires to reduce vibration. Then trim the excess off with side cutters.